T minus
All right,
6 o'clock
6 o'clock on the head.
on the hour.
So you know what time it is. It's time to welcome you to Northwest Salsa Council.
That's right.
NAC.
What we got right
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We got a jam-packed show. Of course, we got the congressman coming in from
For
about that
sure.
6 or 7 hours. You know, we want to talk about business, especially how does Congress help us with business development? Our Congressman Davis, sits on a very powerful Ways and Means Committee. What does that mean? What ways can he help business development in the community? We're going to find out today. We also, in that 7 o'clock hour, hopefully we'd have Malcolm Crawford joining us. He's from the Soul City here on the West Side in Austin community. Some great things going on. It's all about business development today, baby. We also got Vanessa Stokes coming on. She wants to talk about the SSA. What is an SSA? How does that help us build business in our community? We're going to find out today. For everybody that's listening in, you can join us directly on Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. This is a live streaming show, so please watch us live. If you got comments, leave them. We can see them as they pop up. We can read them. With that being said, Steve, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling extremely invigorated. We had a really good weekend yesterday, didn't we? With the block clubs and parties and all the things in the community that were going on. We have to give a shout out to Mr. Ferber, Mr. Willie Ferber, 94-year-old Mr. Willie Ferber, block
94
club.
years old.
That's right.
Salute to that.
Block club president for over 30 years on the 1200 block of Menard. He was out there doing his thing yesterday, you know, as usual.
Beautiful, beautiful. So downstairs, what's going on today? Because we all about business, so you got some business going on down there, right?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have a pop-up shop today with about, 17, 18 young people down there, you know, peddling their wares. They got everything from lingerie to eyelashes, you know, selling food. They're
Fellas, come get your lady looking wonderful.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, it's definitely going on. 5730 West Division, Northwest Austin Council Community Room. And we will try to get a live shot down there because that's going on until 7 o'clock. So if you can make it, come on through. What you got, DeAndre? What you got?
You know what? I'm sitting here trying to fix. You're going to have to mute yourself over there. We're getting a lot of feedback.
On which one?
Zoom. Okay. All right, so we just doing some technical work here. You know, we got some.
Much better?
Absolutely. So we got some cool things going on where we actually projecting ourselves to the TV. So people that's joining via Zoom, we can see you on the big screen. And so if you got comments or anything like that, if you leave them right in the chat, we can see them and we can read them. And if you want to be brought onto the show, just put a hand up if you know how to use that. If not, ask me for the link for the show and we can bring you right on. That being said, so since this is all about business, Steve, so what's your dealings with business? You know, obviously you can rent the space downstairs. We got a pop-up shop going on down there. Is there any other thing that you have been involved in terms of business here in the community?
Oh, most definitely. I'm a landlord. You know, first and foremost, I've been a landlord in the community for over 30 years, or at least 30 years, actually. That's a business that I try to tell everyone, especially young people, in order to build, it's a way in order to build generational wealth by becoming a landlord and owning property. We actually do a training piece known as Making Money for Millennials and Others, where we're training young people and others to buy their first property, primarily a rental property that they will live in and keep it and buy another one so that they can, you know, in turn build generational wealth for themselves and their families. So
Absolutely.
Stay tuned for that because we've been doing that for about a year now.
Yep.
And we kind of put it on hiatus because the market is crazy now. It's actually a seller's market. And that being said, that it's a lot of bidding. There are a lot of bidding wars going on, and we're really trying to get people to get in where they can find a foreclosed property or property that's in distress that can be rehab. But at this time, the market is in a whirl. What did you say? A whirlwind.
Absolutely. I was gonna say you can unmute that now. I end up cutting this. Yeah, because I'm wanting to see something. Hey, so Velda, are you able to hear us? Velda, are you able to hear us over there on Zoom?
Velda testing. Velda.
She probably listening. I don't see. She's not muted, so I'm sure she can hear us.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I do for most individuals that don't know is I'm a business psychologist. So when it comes to business development, I actually have a very unique way about going and establishing businesses or even helping them develop, so to speak, through the psychological means and applications, right? And that means like marketing, look at the technical aspects in terms of psychology. So we look at colors and how people react to them. Same thing with advertising, what words catch your attention, in terms of your organization, what people best fit, what's the mission, is there alignment with the things that you say you're doing and the things that you want to do and where you want to go. So pretty unique profession that I have. And I'm always looking for those opportunities where I can help people in our community develop because we truly need it. So if there's anybody out there that would like to work with me in terms of getting their business developed, please don't hesitate to reach out because that's exactly what I like to do.
Yes.
Phone call. Let me see. Yeah, Steve. So what's the making money for millennials?
Okay. I'll have to call you back. We're live on WNAC.
Yeah. What's money making for millennials?
Money Maker for Millennials and Others is a program that we're actually training individuals to buy their first property.
Mhm.
And what we're doing is it's a year-long program. Actually, we'll do it every year until someone buys something. But right now, we've only had one individual, and we're hoping that the market opens up by the end of the year. But yeah, that's
I'm gonna
what
step
we're
away
doing.
shortly. Let me answer this.
People to buy some property in this Austin community, and do what DeAndre always says, reentrification, where we want to bring back the people that's already in here and keep them in here to build our community stronger.
Absolutely. So I forgot how I happened upon that term reentrification, which is absolutely what we need to be doing. But I think it was the Lady of Rage. I think that was the person that first said that term, or because I ended up going to look it up to make sure that I wasn't biting somebody's words. And when I found out that I had, I'm like, okay, well, let me give credit. I think it's the Lady of Rage, but I'll have to double check that. But basically, this whole idea of reentrification is for people that are like me, to come back to our community and we build in our community, hence reentrification. You know what I mean? And I think people have to understand that we have the power and ability to do whatever we want in our community so long as we are willing to do the work. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of sacrifice, but we can make it happen. But if we get educated, leave, and we leave it to other individuals, then it's no longer our community. So big proponent of doing things like that. But right now, I see Malcolm Crawford has entered the back room, so we want to bring him right into the show, and we're going to get to talking about the Soul City.
That's right.
Malcolm.
Hey, what's happening, good brother? How you doing? Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. We good? You can hear us?
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Actually got locked out of my car, so it's been an interesting situation. Had to walk, then go get my bike to come back with my extra key.
We can't hear you
to
now.
come get my phone. So we all tied to everything we have.
What do you think it is? It's usually in the. It's probably the cars missing something.
No.
It's not us. Test.
Give me 1 second.
Can you hear us now? Nod your head if you can.
No, it is. I think it's this plug right here.
Where?
This plug. My plug.
Oh, right here.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. All right, you back. Technical difficulty.
There we go. Hello?
Yep.
There you go. All right. Sorry about that. So the last thing we heard was you were saying that you ended up locking yourself outside. You locked your keys, so you had to travel all the way to Harlem.
Yep, I had to walk all. I got 3,000 steps. I got 30,000 steps today. So I had to walk all the way home, get my key, then get my bike, which didn't have air in the front tire, and ride all the way back and have my phone in the car. So I'm good now.
You get ready for the Austin tea. All right.
Hey, what's going on, Congressman?
Okay.
Yes, sir. We good. So we just brought Malcolm Crawford into the show. He's the head over here at the Soul City Corridor in Austin. I know you've heard good things about it. So,
John Crawford's son.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Big John's son.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, you got the legs for Jonah.
All right. We were saying, Malcolm. And I was kind of sick.
Yeah. I was just saying, I'm good. I'm here.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Congress.
You got some sweat. Got your steps in. Got your sweat on. So
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
And Congressman, we had a good time last night.
Yes, indeed. I did the concert.
I learned so much. Charmaine Riquette did her father's 95th birthday. You guys talk about entrepreneurship, talking about an entrepreneur and all the things that he was able to accomplish. It was just a wonderful high. And he said, one thing I took out of last night, he said, entrepreneurship is freedom. And I love that.
Mention the fact that he was very instrumental in building Friendship Baptist Church over there in Laramie and Jackson, where he's been a member and deacon for as long as I've known him, and very active in the affairs of that institution. Way back with Reverend Dr. Sheldon Hall.
Yeah, it was such a good time. I just really enjoyed it.
Well, I guess when you know these people, that kind of thing, and you kind of regard them, right there in that little area where they live on Gladys. Of course, Arnold Bearden, the Bearden family has lived there forever. And of course, the Austin family has lived there forever. Dorothy Tucker's daddy still lives there. That's where Dorothy Tucker, the news caster, grew up next door.
You know, I feel connected to her because we both graduated from Austin.
Yeah, she graduated from Austin.
Yeah.
Austin was Austin.
Yeah.
Austin used to be the #1 high school in the city of Chicago. There's so
And
when he said, you realize how little you know.
Absolutely.
And so learning should be a lifelong process. As long as if you learn, you like a flower. As long as it keeps growing, it's alive. When it stops growing, of course it dies. When you stop learning, you die.
You know, I typically feel like you get old when you stop learning. You know, and I guess that's kind of synonymous with death. And I only say that because it's those individuals that feel like they have nothing else left to learn. That's like, okay, well, where else you gonna go? You know.
Since you got Malcolm here, I want to commend him because of his long-windedness. You know, Chicago Avenue, down from Austin coming back east, is a very different place than it was 20 years ago. It's a very different location. And I'm fortunate enough that I don't talk about just what I read or what somebody else may have written or what the newspaper said or what somebody thought. I've been around here long enough to know what it was like. And Malcolm has been steadfast in terms of a belief that you can redevelop and reconstitute a business corridor between what has been two major streets, North Avenue and Division Street at one time. And right between the two, of course, is Chicago Avenue. Well, on the other side,
a little south,
on the other side of Division.
Right, okay.
Chicago Avenue. And they've just been steady. They've kept working it. I used to go to the cleaners. Look, if you ain't black, I have a hard time doing business with you. That was my cleaners.
Yeah.
Yeah, the brother owned the cleaners right there. And he was there for a number of years. And he finally decided that they couldn't do both cleaners they had, one on the south side and one on the west side. So it broke my heart when he closed that one and moved on. But there used to be a very popular nightclub, tavern, a bar. You know, you go and get yourself a beer. And the brother who owned it for years, he was a tavern owner, but he was an activist personified. He was a militant black person who wanted to do things and establish things. So Malcolm, thank you for your work. Thank you for sticking to it. And I think some more very positive things are on the horizon and are about to take place. I mean, if you hang in, no telling what might happen. But if you give up, you know that you're gone.
And I'm very excited, Congressman, and that's Joe Bowles, JB's Lounge.
That's right, Joe Bowles.
Yeah, it used to be JB's Lounge right there on the 5900 block of Chicago Avenue. And Eloise Beasley had her place in the 5900 block, and Blue Light, the Blue Light was in the 5800 block. And I remember walking the street and seeing all of those businesses, and I just said, you know, we've seen it before, and we could do it again. And so it's just good to have these businesses that are coming back to the Austin community. We have Batters and Berry getting ready to open up on Chicago Avenue. We got Soul City Music Studios getting ready to open up on Chicago Avenue. Majani Vegan Soul, who's out south, he's coming over to Chicago Avenue. Brown Soul Food Catering is coming on Chicago Avenue. So we're just excited about the businesses that are buying into. And then Lennox Jackson, you would know him, Carter, but Lennox Jackson, we were able to work with him to purchase the land across the street from Sankofa, and that's going to be 10 storefronts and 30 units of housing. And so we just going to stay the course. We in too deep now, Congressman.
So Alderman Bill Henry claims he got kidnapped on Chicago Avenue from Eloise place.
So where exactly is the Soul City corridor? Because I think there's a lot of confusion with that.
So originally it was to be from Austin to Central. Okay. And that was the Soul City corridor. The city then came in and and added to it and took it all the way to Cicero. So you have and then they broke it up even more. Now you have Soul City West, Soul City Central, and Soul City East. And so Austin to Central is Soul City West, just like you have the West Loop, and then you have the South Loop. So that was their thinking, to break it up. And now they have Soul City East, which is Cicero to Laramie, and then Laramie from Laramie to Central is Soul City Central. So that's kind of how they broke it up.
Okay.
Like that. And so one of the things, it was the Mayor Emanuel had it phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And so nobody really liked that whole phase. That sounded like somebody wasn't going to get their fair share wherever they was in the phase. And so this way, West, Central, and East helps to kind of do things on all 3 at the same time. And so it's been interesting. A lot of energy has been added to, Soul City. And so we're just excited, man. We've been at this a long time. I've had to develop some thick skin, when you're out here doing this. And Congressman, I remember going to visit my father right before he passed. And I just wanted to talk to him about life and everything else. And he said, I got something important to talk to. I need to know about Soul City and about Chicago Avenue. And I was saying to myself, why in the world he talking about Chicago Avenue right now? That ain't important. We need to be just talking about life. But he said that is important because that is life. And he just started talking to me about what needed to happen and how we needed to stay the course. And, and that just gave me legs to keep on doing what we're doing and just keep pushing. We just got to keep on pushing.
So Malcolm, just for the record, let everybody know who your dad was.
My dad, they called him Big John. Some people called him Reverend Crawford. There's some other names for my dad, but that's right. My dad was really well known in the 60s through his organization, the West Side WSO, which was the West Side organization. They were instrumental in bringing Martin Luther King to Chicago. My father also was his bodyguard in Chicago. He was Sammy Davis Jr. bodyguard when he was in here in Chicago. And man, I got 1,000 stories about my father. Some I can tell, and some I got to take with me. But I mean, everybody who know him know that he was committed to his people. And and I would have never thought that I would be involved like I am, because I didn't want to follow his footsteps. Really, I didn't. But I find myself even talking like him sometimes. So it's been an interesting journey. And I know you know him, and different ones, know him, and it's just good to be a part of that legacy.
Absolutely.
Well, the West Side organization was actually one of the creators of the Black Strategy Center. A lot of people don't know a great deal about that period and what really happened.
You got to open up on that. I don't know what that is. Black Strategy Center?
Black Strategy Center was essentially a think tank
of Black organizations and Black leaders, and the corporations were funding it. That is, they put up an amount of money, and the interest on that money was to be the budget of the Black Strategy Center. And actually, fella came in from North Carolina who was the president of Shaw University, and he became the director. And all the leadership of Black organizations who wanted to be a part would meet and begin to develop strategy. What kind of happened in terms of its demise? The group decided one time that they were going to put out a relief press statement that white people had to leave Chicago by 5 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
And the guy who was elected to read the press statement, C.T. Vivian, Dr. C.T. Vivian, was out. Oh, yeah. He was one of Dr. King's lieutenants, one of his main lieutenants. As a matter of fact, C.T. and I went to Africa together in 1975 and spent a month. But C.T. and I also went to the same university to get our doctoral degrees, and he was in the same program. But he was beat up by Bull Connor and the whole shot, if you've ever seen the movies about the day. CT came in, they gave him the press statement, and before he really read it, he's up reading it. And he read this part that said that white people had to be out of Chicago by night, that all white people had to leave.
Oh, man.
And so this was a tough time. Well, obviously that ended up the group, the people who were funding the strategy center, they stopped funding it.
Wow. And
the guy who was head of the Chicago Urban League, Lakey Ashford, got fired.
Wow.
They fired Lakey because he was part of the group. And that's when James Compton was called back to come back to Chicago and head the Urban League, which he did until he ultimately retired. But those were interesting days, the movement days.
So that makes me think about, obviously, that piece, corporate interests, and then it makes me think about Black interests and Black business in general. So I want to know why, even back in those days, was it difficult for Black people to fund themselves? And I want you to hold on to that one when you tell me. And for you, Malcolm, I want to know, in turn, obviously, Soul City to me means Black. Chicago, Austin is Black, right? And you shouldn't be limited to that because dollars aren't Black. But like, where's the difficulty for you in having to try to establish Black business?
Well, one of the challenges I see is people can't be what they don't see. There's no blueprint to create what we're doing, and you can go. And I always tell people, you can, and the congressman knows, you can go to Lagos, Nigeria, 9 million Blacks, and there's a Chinatown,
right?
But there's no place that functions as a economic driver for African Americans. You can travel the length and breadth of this country. And even when you go to Memphis and you go to Beale Street, that's not owned by Blacks. That's owned by, most of those properties are owned by 2 white guys. And so, so there hasn't been a blueprint to do what we're doing. And so from that, it requires somebody like me just to take the lumps and take the hits and take the hate in order to absorb it so that we can keep moving forward and doing what we have to do. And so in that, it's been time consuming, but we can start to see light at the end of the tunnel because the resources are starting to come in. But with us not knowing, not having a blueprint, we have to create it. And so we're used to having social service at the table, leading most of our conversation. We've had to rely on the churches to be at the table to help us in our conversation. We've had to rely on the residents to help us with this conversation. What we have not had in those conversations is the business owners. And so now having the business owners at the table, it's a dynamic that is new. And so being able to interact with the business owners is a new opportunity. And so trying to pull all those pieces together is a challenge, because what I see is we definitely know how to fight. We can do that in our sleep. Yeah. But it's a challenge for us to work together. And so, and the reason why we can't work together, and I'll tell you, is because do we really need to work together? Do we need to get in a lane and stay in a lane? And I've said this before. Do you put a doctor and a plumber in an office together and say, hey, you guys need to work together? No, if you were laying in that hospital bed, you wouldn't want a plumber and a doctor standing there talking about they getting ready to work together. You need to know who's in which lane so that you can know how to direct what needs to happen. And I think that's what we have to pivot to and start to looking at who's doing what. Where do I fit in? Do I get in front of you? Do I get in behind you? Do I wait to merge in? But what do I do to keep moving forward? Because we're all trying to get to the same destination. So that's what I've gathered. It's just that this is a brand new process. I mean, it's a challenge. I tell you, brother, if a blade of grass grows on Chicago Avenue, I had something to do with it. If a blade of grass don't grow on Chicago Avenue, I had something to do with it. It's an interesting position to be in. But like I say, somebody's got to absorb that energy in order for us to keep moving forward.
Yeah. So, Congressman, previously I asked about Black business, Black interest, corporate interest, and how it's been difficult for Black people to really establish themselves as business people, business owners. And you've been around a lot longer. So what do you think it is? What do you think some of the issues are with that?
And let me tell you, it's more difficult now than it was in the past, because there have been times, even in Chicago, not so much in the area where we are, but in parts of Black life, there was a time when Black people owned the businesses on 43rd Street, on 47th Street, on 79th Street, on 87th Street.
Madison?
The West Side, but the West Side has always been a bit different.
Okay.
And part of the reason that it's been different is because it's been a much younger Black community. I'm saying the Black West Side was the last port of entry for African Americans escaping racism, trying to escape it, or trying to get out of the cotton fields and cornfields and tobacco fields in the rural South. And so they came here. This was the last place that they came. But poor people are very consumer oriented.
Absolutely.
Most of us, if we would be honest, we have more personal things than we need.
Absolutely.
I had that same conversation today.
We got more clothes.
Yeah.
I got more T-shirts than I will ever wear again in my life. As a matter of fact, every time I think of purchasing another piece of clothing, I catch myself and say, I got enough clothes to wear until I die. That if I never buy another piece of clothing, I've got enough. So we spend, and much of the money that comes through a middle, low income African American community ends up in the hands of whoever have retail outlets. I'm saying the money will go to the retail outlets. And most of those are owned by someone else. I mean, there used to be a time, as I said, you could go down 47th Street and everything there was basically owned by African Americans. 49th Street, a number of streets, and there was significant ownership even in the new areas like the West Side, but certainly in the area of Cabrini Green, where what used to be the notorious Cabrini Green, Blacks used to own the businesses over in that area where they lived, because that is where they lived. Somehow or another, it's hard to find there's not a Black-owned restaurant, hardly. If I want to go eat, if I don't go to MacArthur's on the West Side, or go out to Priscilla's in
what's that, Maywood?
Yeah,
Maywood. Okay, yeah, that's Maywood.
Or search around to find, but just find one. Many of the Black restaurants have all closed down. Now, there are other restaurants that have maintained and stayed open. But those that used to be, those people made money. And then when they took that money, there's not a Black-owned bank in the city of Chicago. We talk about the fact that there has been a downward trend in the population. But even so, I mean, there used to be a time when there were over 1 million Black people in Chicago, more than 1 million, which is bigger than most cities in America. Most cities don't have 1 million people.
I just want to interject quickly. Speaking to this Black banking portion. So I was doing some research before. We are only in control of $5.8 billion in assets in the Black-owned banks. But consumer spending index, Black people spend $2.2 trillion a year, and that's going to go up by about 0.2 trillion in the year 2024. So we effectively spend much more than we actually have in terms of assets.
But if you don't own anything, how can you make a profit?
Right.
I'm saying ownership becomes the profit off of the goods and services that people exchange and use and all. But if you don't own anything, how can you get part of the profit?
Yeah, you can't.
And so if you can't get part of the profit, how do you generate wealth?
Dr. Claude Anderson talks about Powernomics, love the book, right? He talks about the fact that we don't produce enough. That's something that Black people don't do enough of, right? And we talk about this idea of creating business for ourselves. We need to, we have to be able to create, right? Production is what will lead to income for us.
Part of the reason is that when you start a business, you may struggle to keep it going, to make it work. And many Black people are not prepared to take that risk. Or to work at something to sustain a small business.
Yeah, they say it takes 5 to 7 years, Congressman.
You gotta be there. You gotta be in control of it. You see, some people make sure that they are at the cash register, or that they got somebody at the cash register that they know they can trust, that's not going to get carried away because the money is coming through, and just figure they ought to take them part of it. Or they operate with the theory that if you find a sucker, bump his head. And so that becomes a problem of trust. I suggest to people that you may not have enough resource to go into business by yourself, but go in with somebody else. Yeah, I can't trust it. I can't. Families could go into business. They could pool their resources and open themselves a business and designate one person to really run it while everybody else go on doing whatever they do, whatever the work it is. It's hard to get people to do that.
I want to talk to Malcolm, because I think with what he's trying to build over here, it's going to take a lot of trust and a lot of support. And I do know that they do a ton of things where they do the beers, the Black Economic Empowerment rallies, and they do the boss, or that may not be them, but I know that is another thing that we utilize to build business and spread wealth in the community, especially as new businesses become established. But for you, Malcolm, as you're trying to establish this, how are you helping some of these Black businesses that, like Steve said, they disappear within 5 to 7 years? And as the congressman said, there are some individuals who have difficulty trusting one another and they need to join, but they're afraid to.
So a few things. First thing that we have to do in our community, which we have talked about, is relationship building. You have to know the people who you're working with. You have to trust. You have to trust them, and you have to trust their product. And so that's one of the things that we have to do. The other thing is, I keep saying, why is it that there is a specific Chinatown? Why is there a specific Boys Town? Why are these places specific? And why is it that we don't have it? So look at that. If it's working in other areas and we don't have it, maybe that's one of the things that keep us from prospering. And so when you look at it, when you have a corridor where the businesses, where you can go in and out of business, the dry cleaner is located next to the insurance company, which is located next to the doctor, which is located next to a sit-down restaurant, which is then you create synergy in a community. We don't have that. 85% of the disposable income of Austin goes to Oak Park. And so when we quantify the numbers, that's $150 to $180 million a year that Oak Park gets just because they exist. So when you start talking about a geographic area and where we need to locate our businesses, that's why they do it on Damon. That's why it's on Milwaukee. That's why you put them all together in an area. So what happens with Black people, when you talk to them, why did you put your business there? They say, because I prayed. And that's where I put the business at. Or they'll say the rent was right. But you don't know what's coming in. You don't know what's happening in that location. You don't really know the landlord. You don't know. It's a whole lot of other. You want to open a bar next to a church. You need to know the dynamics of zoning. It's a lot that we don't necessarily investigate before we open these businesses. And because we don't investigate, that's why. And most people that I talk to would tell you, if I just would have known then what I know now, I would have made it. So it's a lack of information as well. And knowing the process of owning a business, we think that word of mouth is what's going to make me. We don't believe in advertising. Right. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of dynamics. You need to ask people what they want. If people want pork chops, and if you're in an area and everybody want pork chops, and you trying to bring them something else, you need to find out who your audience is. So those are the kind of things that has hindered us in business. But I think we're on a good path. I think we're moving in the right direction. I think a lot of people, and I think not just Black people, but a lot of people would come into Black businesses if they just knew where they were. Most Black businesses don't want to tell you that they're Black. Only reason now they're saying that they're Black because when everybody start breaking in the stores, everybody put the sign up saying I'm a Black business. But before that, you couldn't get them. I couldn't pay them to put a sign that I had saying that you were a Black business. So those are the kind of things that we have to, like when I was growing up in my father's generation, They wanted, they said, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud.
Right.
They talked about let's make sure everybody know that this is a black business. Well, now we're saying I don't want people to know that I'm a black business. I want to serve everybody. But that's not what happens in Greektown. That's not what happens in Chinatown. So I think we have to look at what's here and what others have done. And if we're going to do this the right way, we have to look at what has worked for others, bring that energy. And I say this, what better street in the city of Chicago to have a focus on than a street called Chicago Avenue? It just makes sense to really put energy and focus on Chicago Avenue. It's just now learning to work together and absorb that negative so we can create the positive that we need to move forward. And we got businesses coming in and things are starting to move. I just found out we thought that it was $17 million in streetscape that CDOT has. It's actually $23 million in streetscape. So that's new light poles, new flowered, they're going to widen the street for pedestrians so you can sit down. Those are things like that are starting, that's going to be happening in Austin. And once that infrastructure starts to go in, it creates a different look so that we can, and we're going to need everybody's attention because they're talking about putting an arch across Chicago Avenue, but it looks terrible and nothing about it says black.
You said an arch?
It's a purple and white arch, and nothing about it just says Soul City across it.
So if it ain't like the Puerto Rican flag over in Humboldt Park that really represents the culture, we don't want it then.
We don't. I mean, so those are the kind of things that we could do together. We can organize ourselves around really putting emphasis on the culture. I get more people telling me it's a bottle. Somebody threw a bottle out of their car on Chicago Avenue. Well, that's, they do that down on Michigan Avenue too. But we're so busy going after each other. We're not looking at ways to work together. What can I do to work with you? What are you doing that I can bring my talents into what you're doing and see how I can work with you? And when we start doing that, and I'll say fortunately, I was about to say unfortunately, Congressman, but fortunately, I grew up watching the West Side Organization and watching how they were able to get things done. I did not know that that their organization had a textile company in Lincolnshire back in the 60s. I just found that out at his funeral. I didn't know that those gas stations, those Shell gas stations, that they took over. They just took over. I don't know how they just took the gas station and told them, if it ain't run by us, you're not going to get any gas. And those are the kind of things that I watched. And I did not know. When I was growing up, all I knew is my father would tell him to put it on my tab. I didn't know what that. So we never paid for anything when we went to the other stores.
Yeah, because it was hard back in the day. I appreciate the back in it. I was coming from a younger generation. I always talk about how those movements, the boycotts and things like that, like black people really stood on something. They stood on business. If they said we're not shopping here, they're not shopping there. You're gonna have to make some things happen. I want to throw it to Steve.
Yeah, I want to touch base on 4 points. 4 points.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't go there, but you got to create your own.
And one of the things, I'm going to segue into this creating your own. Right now, we do have a pop-up shop downstairs going on, and it's about to end in about 10 minutes. So did you get that stream? No? Well, anyway, we want to stream some of that really quick. And then what I wanted to say was, we don't even teach our kids how to start a lemonade stand. You look around, you teaching entrepreneurship, start with a lemonade stand. I'm sure everybody want to drink some lemonade. Well, the other thing really quick is when you spoke of, I just had this conversation with my wife. I said to her, how come the people that have so little spend so much money and time on so many things they don't even need?
Marketing. They said marketing.
That's a part of it, but a lot of it is psychological.
That's what I said. Marketing. They said marketing, the way it's set up, is to get people to spend what they don't have on what they don't need.
But when you sit at the table and eat more than what you need because you're not sure there's going to be another piece of chicken for you later on, or when you eat the extra biscuit because you can't, I'm saying the psychological stuff plays on the minds of people where they believe they need a lot of what they don't really need. And they never get to the point of amassing enough in order to do this business development. And you got to take the position that everybody can't do the same thing. I mean, you got to find yourself a niche and do that niche and be supportive of. So where do you start? You start with unification. I'm saying I represent Chinatown. And let me tell you, I go to Chinatown a lot. And I find that even though many of the people there are in the same business, they own restaurants, but they're unified a great deal and are not absolutely competitive. If you got to try to win what you try to win if you're in a game of anything. But I'm saying the competition, I represent what's called Little Italy, Italian community.
Wait,
I represent
Little Italy too?
I represent Greektown, where a group of Greek restaurants exist, and that's what there. And there's a tremendous amount of cooperation among the individuals who do the same thing. I'm saying.
So are they pooling resources and things like that?
Same product. They got the same product, and they know that there's enough to go around. I'm saying that there is enough. So there's a level of unity, of unification that helps individuals be able to do what they need to do as a group while you maintain your individuality and you promote and sell or whatever it is that you're doing. What it is, it's like athletes. Once athletes decided that they could unify, then they started making much more money than they were making. They were just individual superstars. They were individual superstars, but they weren't making the money. The baseball players, to Kurt Flood, led them into doing something. They're doing a lot of what Ernie Banks. I used to talk to Ernie Banks a lot. As a matter of fact,
Ernie Banks?
Yeah, I went to his funeral. And Ernie Banks, the last conversations that I had with him, he was trying to figure out how to get the young African-American athletes to pool their resources and do some things together that could make a difference in the communities and neighborhoods where many of them came from. And so unification is one of the most potent weapons that you can ever have. Yeah, is to be unified around whatever it is that you're talking about doing. And if you can have a level of unity, nobody has to tell Latinos or Hispanics to go to a little village, shop, or go over to 26th Street. If they want something, they want to do something. Nobody has to say do that. I mean, that's the spirit of understanding. And so they go anyway. They do what they need to do. And that's because they are unified in thought and in action. One thing to talk about it, it's another thing to do it and know it and understand it. Makes a big difference. a big, big, big difference. So that's how I think it works. That's what I think we have to do.
And I think it's a process. I think it's a process, and we're starting to do it. And one of the things we would like for you guys to know is that that's August the 28th, which is a Saturday. We're gonna have one of our beers. Now, what is a beer? A beer is a Black economic empowerment rally. And so what we're going to do is we're going to Avante's boutique in the 5900 block of Chicago Avenue. And we're just asking everybody to come and buy something. And so if it's $10, $20, they have something for everybody. Mr. Harold Blake, who used to own that, who has since passed on, is now a legacy business. His niece has the business now. She's taken it to another level, and she actually got broken into. And one of the things we wanted her to know is that wasn't our community, and that's not how we function. And we want her to know that we all can work together. As the congressman just said, we can work together. And so if you guys, so we're going to start at 11 o'clock, but we're going to put the word out. But we're asking everybody in the community to come shop at Avante's boutique, which is in the 5900 block of Chicago Avenue. We're asking everybody to just come in and buy something, because what we do know is that if you want to be blessed, be a blessing. Help somebody else out. And so we're asking everybody who got a mother, sister, daughter, whatever, you can come there and buy something. I had Maria Pappas over there on Friday. She came in and bought her a hat and bought her some more stuff. And I've been just bringing people by there just to show her that we do care in the Black community, and we are going to support her. So I just wanted to get the word out that Avante Boutique, whose owner was Mr. Harold Blake, we're going to be in there supporting them August the 28th.
And it makes a lot of good sense. See, everybody can't go to the March on Washington. A lot of people are going to be going to Washington as sort of an enactment of the August 28th march that occurred many years ago that King and all the folks led. But you can't do one thing, you can do another thing. And,
That's
I know people who like to talk smack, but you can't even get them to come to a meeting. And they don't understand that you ain't just meeting to socialize, you're meeting to organize. And they think meeting is just about socializing as opposed to organizing. So it's not the easiest thing in the world because people see things differently, and you generally got to meet people where they are. For example, I don't have a parade every year because I just like to march or walk. I have a parade to promote education and try and help young people know that education is the key and that it's a way of putting yourself in a position to do things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do if you don't have it. And so I ain't interested in just out marching or walking up and down the street to say there is a parade. Now there's some motivation behind it. I was the little group of kids who were into the Sun Times today. I was right behind them at the Bud Billiken parade. And we marveled at how effective they were. And obviously some reporter thought they were too, because that was the photograph of the Bud Billiken parade that they put in the Sun Times to go with the story. And we went over and met with the lady and her son who organized the group. They're from around 83rd and Commercial over on the southeast side of Chicago. And I just give them another public shout out They obviously have just done a great job with the kids that they had in their dance troupe. And I enjoyed just watching them and riding in the car as they walked down the road, doing their dances and their moves. But it takes work.
So, Congressman, I love everything you said. Usually around this hour, 7 o'clock, we just take a quick breather, give us a minute to stretch. So we ain't going nowhere. Just still stay tuned. Malcolm, you still with us for a little bit of time?
I can stay on for about 10 more minutes.
Okay, bet. We got a couple more questions for you. So we just gonna take a breather real quick. That's all. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Actually met and know enough about them. There are a lot of people who are blind.
Jump back in this thing.
And they do a lot of calling.
Okay. So while we got Malcolm for these last couple minutes or so, any questions you want to ask? So we got an in-studio guest. We got P right here. You know what I mean? She just came off her show at VON doing her thing. So she came to slide down with us and help us do our thing. So you got a question for Malcolm?
Yeah, I'm actually in a radio show right now.
Hey, what's up, Trisha? How you doing?
Good afternoon. I just have a really brief question for you, and I spoke about this on Black Excellence Hour about 45 minutes ago. Can somebody explain to me why we're putting leisure spaces on commercial property or commercial corridors on the west side of Chicago? And when I say leisure spaces, I'm specifically alluding to the Pop Works Court on Chicago Avenue in Lockwood and the outdoor skating rink on Madison and Pulaski. We know that Chicago is only warm 4 to 5 months out of the year. So during the winter and the cold months, this becomes again another vacant lot space. So what's the business? Maybe I don't understand it. So if you can explain to me, what's the goal of decorating vacant lots?
So that lot had been, I kind of think, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but one of the things that I believe that needed to happen was that had been vacant for like 20 years.
Oh, no, that specific one on Chicago Avenue in Lockwood has been vacant for about 5 years because I remember specifically when they tore it down.
No, so the building that was there was vacant. That's where they stole my car. That used to be a and I know that because that happened 24 years ago when they stole my car from the 5900 block of Mayfield, and it was in that building, the one that you're talking about. And when the gentleman died, he died about 10 years ago. And so it had been vacant for as long as 20 years, that space that was right there. And I know that because that's where my car was stolen. That used to be the chop shop where they would steal cars and put them in there. And then that area also was a serious loose cigarettes and drug spot right there. That's why they closed the store down Catter Corner to that location. And so one of the things that we know, or which I see, is that we need outdoor gathering spaces that are contained. We don't have the luxury to be able to sit on the street like you do in like over on Damon or those places and put a long stretch of area where people can sit outside. We don't have that luxury. The hope is, as you beautify a community and you make things, and we have noticed that the crime has gone down quite a bit in that area since that has been placed there, and trying to really activate the space and do things in the winter. Now, that's not my space, but I'm going to do all I can, as I told them, to help them, because I want to see more activated spaces that have sat dormant for quite a while along the corridor.
Okay, so the reason I asked is because you raised me, right? I mean, you were one of the people who helped me come to these conclusions. So I started to pay attention to commercial corridor spaces, especially when I go to other neighborhoods. And when you go on 26th Street, there are no leisure spaces on their commercial corridor. When you go on Lincoln Avenue, there are no leisure spaces on their commercial corridor. When you go on Division West or East of Western, which is Bucktown and Wicker Park. One moment, ma'am.
Was that Vanessa?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure that you all hear me. I'm Vanessa Stokes, and I'm the one that manages hot courts on Chicago Lockwood, and I'm kind of having a hard time hearing. I just want to make sure that I'm hearing everything and everyone.
Yeah, hey Vanessa, this is DeAndre. So I sent you the StreamYard. Were you able to jump into the StreamYard link?
I didn't get the link.
Here, I'm
gonna resend.
I'm gonna resend.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time. I just want to make sure I hear everything everyone is saying. Gotcha. I'm gonna resend it now.
Okay, and so I'll repeat what I said. What I said was that as I grew up on the West Side dealing with housing and economic development, I've always been told that we want to put buildings and economic drivers on the vacant lots. The vacant lots are my passion. This is what drove me to leave the United States of America, because I was disgusted at the rate of the red X's in vacant lots that appeared in my neighborhood very rapidly. And so as I began to look at other neighborhoods going around the city, on 26th Street, there are no vacant lots. Even if there are abandoned buildings, there are no vacant lots. On Clark Street, there are no vacant lots. On Lincoln Avenue, there are no vacant lots. But over here in the 37th Ward and the 29th Ward, we have vacant lots. And in the 28th. 28 is actually what pushed me out of the country. I could not do Madison and Pulaski, even though I lived at 4040 West Monroe. And so now we have the Pop Works Court, which is beautiful. It is gorgeous. I live down there. I love it every time I drive past it. But we know that that is not a commercial building. And just like the federal government sent tens of millions of dollars to the city of Chicago to demolish our structures, we did not get the money to rebuild. And so now we have a community full of ROM fields. That's what I call them, because Rahm Emanuel was in charge when we got these lots. Now we have these ROM fields that are not being redeveloped, but rather being turned into public leisure spaces that are not creating jobs, that are not driving tax revenue, that are not rebuilding our neighborhood. It's gorgeous. It has beautiful lights and colors and all that great stuff, but that's not a business. Those are not apartments. That space is not going to send kids back to house school so that they can get their numbers back up and get their funding. That lot is not going to push tax revenue. So talking about it, I'm asking questions so that I can be informed.
So can I answer? Can I answer a couple of those questions?
Yes, sir.
So a couple of things, and you know I appreciate you. So a couple of things with that is that space is just an activation space. There is a corridor plan, which I believe I need to do a better job at promoting the corridor plan, because there are nodes and there are pieces that go into that plan that will allow to activate spaces. One of the things that we knew was that so when you go down in that area, the sidewalk is very narrow. Why, we don't know, but the sidewalk is very narrow. It's not even 5 feet. So you can't really do anything outdoor. You can't really do anything but to have a space that's that you can activate and you can do things there is a good thing. And that is not a permanent, that is not the end all. It's the beginning, because there's more to come. There are new construction projects coming. What I would like to do is I need to what Congressman Davis talked about. He talked about uniting and working together. And I think in that, people need to be armed with information. And I think that those plans and those types of things and how they work is important. And so with that, if you look at what has happened in that area, that was when you got, so it's Soul City West, Soul City Central, and Soul City East. In that area, that was like our worst area. I'm talking about crime like you wouldn't believe.
I live over there.
You know what I'm talking about then. So now the lady has, since that has been put there, the lady directly across the street put a youth organization there. She doesn't do that with any money from anybody. She does that on her own. She just took 30 youth from Austin to Disney World on her own. She just put her business right there across the street. That used to be the biggest loose cigarette shop in the world. That man used to sell loose cigarettes and everything, but we got him shut down. We worked with the police department to get him shut down. And now the brother, what his name? His last name is Woods, but he's a world traveled poet, and he's put an entertainment space across the street. So what is starting to happen is with that activation space is giving us a place where we can interact, and there's more to come. There's more properties. And like I say, I got to do a better job as corridor manager, just Malcolm Crawford on Chicago Avenue, where I need to do a better job at getting that information out about what corridor development looks like. We've gotten it out, but I really want to do system overload and make sure that everybody has this information about what's happening in the corridor. And that's just like a node, but that node is holding down that area right there right now as we continue to develop the area. Now, lastly, I will say this. That is temporary. That in time can be something, the things that you talk about. But we had to start somewhere. We had to do something.
Hey, Malcolm.
So yeah, I didn't know that. Again, when I drove past, all I saw was a beautifully decorated lot. And I said, oh my God, this is gorgeous. But then I said to myself, wait a minute, what does this look like on December 15th? You know what I'm saying? And then when I drive around,
a Christmas tree.
It's the start.
Yeah.
And you know what? Christmas tree, outdoor events. I mean, the sky's the limit. We're talking about a gospel fest, a blues fest.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. So,
Vanessa's trying to.
Kind of low. So.
I could barely see. Y'all see how I put my glasses on?
I see you got your glasses, Vanessa. We can see you real well.
Oh, wait. Who's the young lady on? I'm sorry. I could barely. I'm on my phone right now. Who is?
We can see you extremely well, Vanessa.
Oh, okay, great. I see Congressman Davis. Hey, Congressman Davis. Hey, DeAndre. Yeah. Hey, Malcolm. Yeah. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry. Who's the young lady behind the Northwest Austin Council?
Oh, we
The one and only.
Changing the name right now.
Okay, hello. I'm the one that manages Pop Courts, and I just kind of wanted to shed a little light on, and I hear everything that you said. I heard everything that you said, P. Ray. I heard everything, and I did grow up in the Austin community. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Lakeview and on the north side. And when my family moved here about 20 years ago, that was an old auto repair shop that was sitting there vacant for many years.
No, it wasn't auto repair. It was the chop shop. That's where they stole cars.
Okay, well, whatever the heck it was, it looked like it was where cars went, right? So it was demolished. The city demolished it, and then it sat there for some years vacant. And my mom lives right down the street on Lockwood, right? So me and my kids would walk down the street, and we would see this vacant lot, and we started to imagine what could be possible in that space. Now, that wasn't what I was thinking that would be possible, and I agree with you. If you go to Lincoln Park or you go to other neighborhoods, there aren't any vacant lots. Those are all developed spaces. And I thought, what could be the first stage in development on a corridor, right? It's really getting people to create community. It's really for us to really start to see the importance of us to gather together and celebrate. It's important for a safe space for young people to be together, right? We had an event there on Friday, and it was it was a mommy event. We celebrated World Breastfeeding Week. We wanted mothers to come out. A midwife came out. We talked about mommy stuff. A bunch of moms brought their babies. It was great. But the one thing that I found really interesting was the young people that came there wanting to play basketball. We have 3, 4, 5 groups of kids that came up, and they waited. They waited until we were complete with our event so they could play basketball. So this is what this space gives. It gives us a safe place for us to gather. Now, what happens in the future? That's for us to really imagine what can happen in that space. It's very possible to create whatever it is that we want to see possible in that space and all the other vacant lots that are on Chicago Avenue, right? And if I'm not mistaken, P. Ray, you live near the office of Westside Health Authority, right?
I do. I just told Malcolm Crawford I live down there. I grew up down there. That's my
She knows the area extremely well.
So right there on LeClaire and Chicago Avenue, there's a block long, almost a block long of vacant.
Oh yeah, so this is my point, Vanessa.
But it takes,
when I was living there as a little girl, that wasn't vacant.
It takes time for us to develop. Development doesn't happen overnight.
Can I say this? There is the thing of,
but I think that this is a great way to start this conversation. This is such an important part of development, is having these types of conversations. I'm done. Go ahead.
So can I say this? We are all in the right place at the right time. I know I got to get off, but we are in a history-making space. All of us are much needed. Now, y'all know me, and I love you guys. And if I didn't, I'd tell you I don't. Anybody who know me know I don't have no problem telling you how I feel. So, but I know that these are some dynamic individuals that can get the job done. And so with that, there is a plan for Soul City. There is a plan. There is serious resources being poured into Chicago Avenue. What we have to do is continue to do what we're doing right now. Have conversations and move the ball forward, because we're here now. We ain't going nowhere. It's a good time, but I think information is key. And I think we gotta, if we need to come back, whatever that I need to do, however we need to do it. And I will say this, and Congressman knows, hey, I am a student of Ray Easley. That her dad is my guy. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for Ray Easley. So I know I can tell anybody, anytime, anywhere, you know, where I stand and how I feel about the Easley family. And so I know that we are all in the right place at the right time, and we're making history. We're making history with this Soul City. Hey, brother DeAndre, I don't think you knew you was gonna have this kind of energy that quickly.
Oh no, that's what we're looking for. No, these conversations, this all it's about, community
But
conversation.
I hate I gotta jump off, but I really appreciate you guys and the energy and what's.
We're gonna have you back on before you leave.
I love it.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you, talk about information. I wanted to know, before you leave, make sure you let people know where they can reach you, but also as it relates to availability of property so that people can move businesses, create office space or whatever it need be. How do we go about finding what's available in the Soul City corridor so that we can do those type of things, and also reach out to you so that we can do those type of things?
So you know what? We have a partner right now. It's called Urban Maine. And so which is a national organization, National Urban Maine. And we just had a workshop on Saturday. And what we're doing is we're going to be creating committees, and we're going to be creating opportunities for everybody to get involved in Soul City so that we can get this done. We're even talking about, and one of the things that came out of that meeting is let's have digital billboards where people could actually get information in real time about what's happening in the community. So we can have that. And so that's one way that we're going to be getting the word out about what's happening. We're going to need all the, and look, y'all going to get tired of me, I'm telling you, because I'm going to be at your door.
Because we need business in the community. We can't.
Look, y'all think I'm playing. Watch what's about to happen. I'm going to be at your door because we got to do this. And we all are part of history right now. I mean, we're making history. We're history makers. So we gonna need. It's gonna take all of us coming together. You know what they say? Damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. It's time to move. It's time for all of us who are good thinkers, who know what we're talking about, and don't let nobody separate us from our history. When I say that, I mean the history of our families, not just somebody who just stepped down in the community yesterday and gonna tell us what need to happen.
Right.
You can't separate us because we are bound by blood. We're bound by, like when you asked Congressman Davis who I was, who did he tell you the first thing he said who I was? That's Big John's son.
Yeah, yes, sir.
He didn't even know my name. He know me as Big John's son. That's what they know me as. And that's the same thing that we got to do. And we're here now for whatever reason. God got all us here right now to make this change, and we're gonna do it. So I really appreciate you guys having me. It's Sunday.
Yeah,
and I really appreciate being here. And anytime, brother, you call me, man, I'm coming. And anytime anybody call me, I'm coming because this is my passion, man. I love Austin. I love the people, and I stand on the shoulders of giants. So just let me know and I'm in.
All right, bet. Appreciate you.
So thank you, Malcolm. So on my show, I talk about the West Side. I love living on the West Side. The Austin community is the best neighborhood in the country, period. We have 2 trains, 5 bus lines that go downtown. We have the amenity of the expressway, and then we have the amenities of the western suburbs. So everything that is found on Michigan Avenue is also in Oak Brook. It takes us about the same amount of time to get there, and there's parking in Oak Brook. So we get the best of all worlds. And because I love living here, I'm a second generation Austinite. My mama and daddy, both my grandmothers, own properties in Austin. We still have those properties. I live in a building that my grandparents bought in '72. So my roots in this neighborhood are very deep, and I'm glad that Malcolm Crawford gave me the information that I needed so that I can take this to the people that I speak to as well as we talk about how great Austin is.
Absolutely. Hey. Well, she did. Let me see. Oh, I just saw this. Congressman Davis. Oh, here we go. Vanessa, she got a couple minutes. I'm like, dang, you just jumped off. I ain't even get a chance. All right, so
Sorry.
one of the things that I really wanted to get some understanding of is this whole SSA deal. Because I believe you're over the SSA in Austin, right?
Yes.
Now, and I know that part of the SSA here is also a part of Soul City, and I don't want to, get those two things misconstrued. So, what is it that separates the SSA from what Malcolm is trying to do on Chicago Avenue?
Well, there is no separation.
Okay.
So basically, it's two separate. We're all working towards the same thing, right? So the Soul City corridor is from Austin to Cicero.
Right.
The SSA is part of that, which is central to Cicero, but it's also right to Ohio on Cicero. So it's two separate things. So the SSA is a program through the Department of Planning. And basically, you have to go through a designation process. And then once you go through that process, the space becomes a designated special service area, which is, in other spaces, it's called a business improvement district. So basically what it is that we levy some of the property taxes within that space, right? And those property taxes go into a pot, into a budget that is managed by commissioners. So those commissioners are appointed by the mayor, and there is a service provider that provides the service of the SSA. Usually, it's in other communities, it's a chamber, but it can be. It's really, this could be a nonprofit organization. So Westside Health Authority is the service provider for the SSA. So pretty much, you can. It's all what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent. So because it's property taxes, everything is transparent. You can go online and look at our budget. You can go online and look at how we spend the money in the SSA. So it's transparent. Our meetings are open to the public, so anybody can come to our meetings. And so, it's not like it's ancillary. It's not like it's just a bunch of people, businesses on the corridor. So most of the commissioners are either property owners or business owners inside the corridor. Right now, we're going through a change. So we're looking for commissioners that are business owners or property owners inside the corridor. We already have a one person that is a community member that's going to be on our board or on our commissioners. But yeah, I mean, usually, you have a one community member, but most of the commissioners are business and property owners on the corridor. So that's pretty much how it works. I have a couple of minutes for questions.
Yeah. So are you? So you said it's business improvement. So what exactly and how exactly is business being approved with an SSA?
So there are things that happen within the corridor. So we have a budget that can allocate funds to different areas. There are 5 different categories. And please forgive me, it's Sunday and I'm kind of turned off a little bit. So please excuse me for not having all my P's and Q's. But for instance, I'll give you one, like safety and is one, and another one is like public aesthetics. So for instance, we can help by keeping the corridor clean. So we can install garbage cans. We can also pick up garbage in the corridor. We can beautify the corridor by putting plants, things of that nature. Um, we also can offer businesses small grants to do some facade replacement. So, for instance, if you have a business on the corridor and if we put on an RFP for facade replacement, and let's say you want to get your front of your business done or refinished, that we can offer a grant. We also, since Department of Planning this is part of the Department of Planning, we could do things like connect businesses to other resources and other opportunities within the city. So I mean, it's kind of like we can help, create other ways that, like with
Yeah.
safety and beautification are one of the ones that we're focused on, is like making sure that we keep it clean, and then also making it safe. But like I said, this takes a little bit of time. There's been a transition. There was another um, person that was managing the SSA, and I started right before COVID did. So I'm just now getting my feet planted into this position, and that's
Got you.
some of the things.
So I called you super late, and I appreciate the time that you was able to come on and
Thank
spend
you.
time. But we just gonna have to let you know earlier in advance so you can come on and spend some more time with us, so we can ask some more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to be here with y'all. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts
Yeah.
within economic development, and one of the things, and maybe we could do this in the next couple of weeks or so, but this to share, I'm the artist organizer for We Will Chicago. So We Will Chicago is a comprehensive plan for the whole city. And so I was asked to help to organize around the economic development pillar. So there's 7 different pillars in which economic development is one. And we're also working within a certain community cluster, which is Austin, Humboldt Park, and Hermosa. So I'd love to come back and talk to you a little bit more about the city's plan, and maybe even I can invite somebody from the Department of Planning to come and speak a little bit if you'd like.
Okay.
But I think that this, we're at a really pivotal time on the West Side. There's a lot of space, there's a lot of movement happening, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to share what's happening to the whole community, so we can all, see what's there for us and see how we can all be a part and participate.
Got you. All right. Thank you so much for joining. We will reach out to you so you can jump back on with us.
Sounds great. Thank you,
All
DeAndre. Thank you, Congressman Davis. Thank you, P. Ray.
It's a pleasure. I look forward to the interaction again.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna pull up on you at your office this week to say hello.
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday. Those are the days I'm there.
Okay, see you soon.
All right, have a good one.
All right. So, Congressman, in terms of business development, I know you sit on the Ways and Means Committee, and I've heard that a lot. I don't know what it is. What is that? And are you able to help with business development by way of the Ways and Means Committee?
Yeah, the Ways and Means Committee really looks to find ways to pay for what the federal government says it's going to do.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Money becomes a part. Now, most of our money really gets filtered to state units of government, state government. For example, already we know that the child tax credit that just started in July has benefited 1.6 million children. And that the average family who got some of that money got $428. We know that because a tremendous amount of research goes into understanding what happened to the money. We send, of course, billions of dollars to state government and to city government and to county government. And generally, the rules are pretty broad. in terms of what they are to do. Say, for example, economic development.
Mm.
What is economic? I mean, economic development can be a lot of things. A lot of things. It can be purchasing property. It can be building things on it. It can be creating jobs. It can be beefing up institutions. It can be fixing potholes in the street. It can be fixing sidewalks. We don't often get into the minutia of all that.
Mm-hmm.
But we decide if you're going to have a program, whatever you're talking about, you got to pay for it. So the money to pay for it has to come from somewhere. And it usually comes from some form of taxation.
Yeah. Yeah.
The big argument is who do you tax?
Right.
Okay.
Do you tax the corporate entity? Do you tax? And the big argument between Democrats and Republicans right now is the corporate tax rate.
Mm-hmm.
Many Democrats believe that we need to increase the corporate tax rate to pay for these things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the corporate community feels that we need to find some other way of doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and not increase the corporate tax rate.
Mm-hmm.
President Trump reduced the corporate tax rate.
Mm-hmm.
Said that corporations need a break. They're paying too much. But if one group is not paying, who's paying?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got to pay. I mean, and so that's the big argument.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get it done for nothing. Somebody have to pay. I take the position that if you create jobs and put more people to work, those individuals will feed into the treasury.
Mm-hmm.
Because rather than becoming liabilities or needing the help of the government, they become assets.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're putting money into the government. And so I call it investment. I don't call it spending. I call it investment. If you invest in a person, and that person then 10 years from now is able to pay taxes and put $25,000 or $30,000 a year
Mm-hmm.
into the system,
Mm-hmm.
and then you multiply that by 100,000 people, you've generated a lot of money.
You say, well, I mean, that's part of the GDP equation. You know, it's like you said, it's consumer spending, but you call it an investment. The more we spend, the more we actually are able to put back into, and then the government in itself is able to spend, you know, which makes us look a little
And all
healthier.
people don't agree with that.
Right.
I'm saying some people agree with that. Some people disagree with that.
Uh-huh.
And that becomes the argument.
Absolutely.
That becomes the fight.
So, hello.
Hello.
So I just want to give you the seat so you can come and speak on what you got. This whole thing is about business development, you know, and so this is Congressman Davis, P. Ray. Obviously, you know, Steve, myself, I'm DeAndre. And obviously this thing, we want to talk about developing our community economically. So that's what you came in on. And so you've been doing these pop-up shops.
Yes, sir.
And we want to hear more about that. So I'm trying to change my name though, so you can put yours in there.
Just click your name and
Right.
it'll pop up.
There we go. So put your name in there. Wherever you want people. Like, I mean, world do your thing. So how could when we're talking about like youth and investment, because she's doing her thing. How could the federal government help people like her, young entrepreneurs?
We have money for almost anything anybody want to do. If they really read it enough and find it and go to the agencies and go to the entities that they deal with, there is generally something there to help them. If they're grants they're looking for, in some instances they're grant. If they're loans, if they're ways to finance. For example, I developed something several years ago called the Mentors Protege Program.
Mentors Protege?
R.R. Dunley, which is the biggest print company in the United States of America. They did something with a little printing shop out in Bellwood, Illinois, called All Print. Mm-hmm. And the brother got more business from R.R. Dunley through that opportunity than he's gotten in his whole life.
Mm-hmm. And it's called Mentors Protege Program?
Mentor Protege. That's where a big corporation will say, I'm going to mentor a small business.
Nice.
And show them how we do it and show them how to make money in this business. And we'll even help them because we'll give them some business themselves.
Do you still have that going?
It still goes.
Mentors Protege. All right, so guest Luda Lit Queen. Tell us about yourself.
Yes. Okay. My Facebook name is Luda Lit Queen. My real name is Lunetta Frazier. I and my sisters, I have two sisters that we started Queen Lit Lashes, Lingerie, and Candles, where one of my sisters actually hand makes the candles. The other sister of mine, she is good with fashion merchandising and able to put, the lingerie together with the times, with how it's trending and so forth. And I am
y'all the ones that put the mannequins up there,
right? And she knows, what's trending basically. I'm the business mind behind it. So I'm the business and the marketing behind it. My name is Lunetta Frazier. We are Frazier sisters. Mm-hmm. And so, again, we sell lashes, lingerie, and candles. And then I decided to host pop-up shops where it allows Black owners, small business owners from typically all over Chicago or the Chicagoland area, because we have people that come outside of Chicago as well, to come and be a part of the pop-up shops that Steve allows us to host here. And we have lashes, lingerie, candles, food, clothes,
Solar power.
Solar power, yeah. Solar power chargers as well. Yes, we do. Yes. Right. Waist trainers, clothes, shoes, swimsuits, and so forth. Whatever you can think of, whatever small business owners have, we allow them to network and market their brand on a monthly basis here. He allowed us to host it here. And I started this business I want to say during the quarantine. Mm-hmm. My job decided to lay me off during the stay home, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what can I do to continue my revenue, and what can I do? And my name on Snapchat was Queen Lit, and so I decided, hey.
Wait, you West Side or South Side?
I'm actually born and raised on the West Side.
I already knew it because you're hustling. I already knew it. Sat at home and came up with an idea to get some money.
And just one day, I'm at home being bored with my son doing homeschooling, and I say, hey, what can I do to increase revenue? And I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to start a brand of lashes and lingerie. Okay. And my sister already did candles on the side, but it was me that was actually the voice behind it. Hey, you should buy these candles from my sister. So I say, you know what? Since my name is Queen Lit, because I'm always known to be like the life of the party, Okay. So I say, hey, why don't I start this as a brand and let my sister sell her candles and the other sister who went to school for fashion merchandising, why don't we start this label and do lashes and lingerie? Because, hey, we staying at home right now. So it's the perfect time to sell lingerie. I'm in my own lane, you know.
Why is it the perfect time to sell lingerie?
Because you're at home. What else can you know? You at home at the time during the quarantine. Married couples got to know each other a lot more than they did before because you're working from home or either your job laid you off, so you got to know each other a little bit more during this time.
So you do turn the intensity up.
Yep.
Even better.
So it's gonna be a whole lot of quarantine babies because of y'all.
But the real deal is they unified their skills.
Yes.
Right.
And she's not just herself. She mentioned
my sisters
she
as well.
and her sisters as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are things that individuals cannot do alone. But they can certainly do it if they unify.
Absolutely.
Pool their resources, pool their expertise and ideas, and make it happen.
Yeah, you know, since we were little kids, we were always told, you guys are a package deal. You know, so hey, and I felt like, you know, I'm the oldest of my sisters. And hey, if I'm gonna do
how old are you?
You don't ask a woman that.
I'm gonna be 35 going forward. Even when I'm 40, I'm gonna be celebrating my 5th annual 35th. Yes.
Well, I asked the question because I want people to realize it's never too late. I mean,
It's absolutely not. I'm actually 37.
Jesus, I'm mad because I'm 30.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so the way I was always taught is me and my sisters are a package deal. So I looked at the talents that my sisters had and the gifts that God gave them. And I decided, hey, why not put these all together so we can increase revenue? Because we all have kids. So like, hey, why not do this so that we can generate revenue for our kids, a company that we could eventually pay our kids out of so that now they have work history. They are able to
y'all doing
create,
that.
they're able to create tax returns. So now they have, you know, and then put them as officers of the companies at one point in time so that now they have a company on their belt. They have done a Bradstreet report. It's a bigger picture. You know, and so we want to set up our kids for success because our parents were not able to do that for us because, you know, we were raised during the Reagan era. So, hey.
We came up
so
tough. We came up tough.
Right.
It trickled down.
Absolutely.
We learned the lesson
Absolutely.
that we take.
One question that is, tell Congressman, everybody out there listening, the average age of the people that are peddling the wares downstairs.
You know what? What's crazy is one of the ladies that we had that have some of the best food we had, she had stuffed salmon, Cajun salmon, stuffed chicken, and jerk lamb chop. She's only like 22 years old.
Nice.
And she's the CEO of her company.
Nice.
And you know, and I admire.
So you gotta bring some food. We at the conference next time.
She has some of the best baked macaroni. And I told her, hey, my dad's one of the best cooks I ever tasted. But between you and I think you got him beat. But I'm not gonna tell him that. You know, when she's young.
Yeah, next time we're gonna
Spice Gallery.
Something for her.
Yes, her name is Angel. And she's part of the Spice Gallery. I just want you guys to know that. Angel Craig. She's Angel Marie on Facebook, but she has some of the best food that you can think of. She also does catering as well.
So how has the process been for you? How many pop-up events is this now?
This is my 8th. I typically throw them on a month-to-month basis. Sometimes I take a break, but typically on a month-to-month basis, this is my 8th pop-up shop. And they have been pretty successful because what I make sure that everybody is promoting, and there are always small business owners, typically throughout the Chicagoland area. I was going to say just the West Side, but we have some people that come from Joliet, some people that come from Coal City, which is by Diamond, Illinois, you know. So, right. By Diamond, Illinois, like it's like an hour and a half away from where we're at now.
They come all to...
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've even had some people to travel from Hammond, Indiana over to the pop-up shop. So, Some people come from Minnesota as well.
Is it rotating?
Yes.
So you
like
do rotate?
Sometimes what I do is I have a certain amount of vendors that I want to work with. And because some of them are successful with some of the pop-up shops, so they're ready to book right away. Like, hey, make sure I'm in the next one. But I try to not have a saturated market, if that makes sense. I understand that in the world, don't be afraid of a saturated market because everybody likes chicken, right?
Right.
Some people like it fried. Some people like it baked. Some people like rotisserie.
Right.
Some people like chicken cutlets. Some people like, chicken nuggets. Some people like white. Some people like dark.
Right.
And, I want people to not be afraid of a saturated market. But with the pop-up shops, I tend to have one vendor that specialize in one service, so it's not a competition, if that makes sense.
You can do it. I was in Bellwood, Illinois yesterday at the Taste of Bellwood. They had 48 vendors, and most of them were African American businesses. Some had come all the way from Champaign to participate. There were people who had specialty ice cream. There were people who had specialty lemonade. They had everything that you could imagine. Some people had fish prepared a certain way. And the people in Bellwood were just having themselves a great time. But today I was out on 61st and Marshfield with people who were naming a street after the matriarch of their street, who would have been 110 years old. Wow. Today was her birthday. Wow. She died in March.
Wow.
But 109. She was 109.
Wow.
And they were just,
man, what?
They had everything going on 61st and Marshfield. I was in her home 2 years ago, sitting on her couch with her, eating chocolate cake, man, and having a good time.
Man, you got stories on stories, Congressman.
Well, let me tell you, people can do. Guess what? Before I went there, I was up north at the Indian parade, where Indians from India had themselves a gigantic parade. I was a parade marshal. Up 600 North on Western. Yeah. Western. I mean, there are so many things going on. Yeah. And rather than this gloom and doom, rather than this, we can't do that, we can't do this. You can't do anything unless you do it. But you can do anything you want to do if you decide to do it. And that's what this young lady and her sisters have done. They created using the talents and that they've got. Yeah. And people can do it.
And it's taken this pandemic for many people to do things.
Yeah.
Well, the pandemic, the only thing that I guess I'm concerned about there is that a lot of people who still are not making use of the science that's available and tells us what we need to do.
It's the discipline.
And you may have a different idea, but your different idea would probably take you out to A.R. Leak and Sons. And they waiting for you. I was on Spencer's show the other day. They had 50 funerals that week because they announce every week the number of funerals they have. I've been listening to their show for 60 years, ever since I've been in Chicago. So people do all kind of things, and they're doing it. That's all we have to do is keep moving.
That's right. That's right.
So you had a business fair downstairs, Steve? That's right.
Absolutely. They call it pop-up shops, but it's truly a business fair, and I like seeing the younger people getting out there cutting their wares, getting out there hustling. They're doing their thing. They have, like you said, they're selling lingerie to solar power systems to
cakes and cookies.
Yeah, cakes and cookies, and the chefs are. I should have got some. I tried to get.
Yeah, next time we're gonna make
dinners, kids' clothes, shoes, swimwear, purses, accessories for women, women's clothes, kids' clothes, which is really important now because we back to school. You know.
Well, we actually have a great deal of relationship with the Small Business Administration. As a matter of fact, we had dinner with them last week with all the mayors in the suburban part of our district. We had a dinner meeting, and he was able to share with them the kind of money that is available for businesses who lost business during the pandemic, who kept their people working. So there's still money available for small businesses and for large businesses for that matter. But the large businesses got the bulk of the money the first time around. We changed the rules.
And the people with farms too.
Make sure that didn't happen. And that the small businesses, people who have barbershops and beauty shops and small food concessions and all of that they are the ones who needed the help just as well as the big corporations who got, some of them, hundreds of thousands of dollars and even into the millions. So we love to help develop small business.
For sure.
So Luda Lit Queen, what's next for y'all? Where we trying to take this to?
Well, we are doing another pop-up shop, hopefully right before Sweeties Day, which is the best time to sell lingerie.
Get some that's a fit back though.
And again, we even had small business owners that was 14 years old starting, a lip gloss brand. Nice. And I just want to help promote different businesses throughout the West Side particularly. But you will be surprised how many different vendors reach out to me throughout the Chicago land and say, hey, I hear you hosting a pop-up shop. We want to be involved. We want to be a vendor. But the next one we are looking to do around October, around the Sweeties Day. And then you can also check out my website, queenlit.com, for the lashes, lingerie, and candles. And then, again, we just host the pop-up shops to kind of create awareness for people who just don't know that the website is out there for the community.
Get your buzz.
Right?
I want to bring up one thing Congressman brought up last week. He wanted to do a book. What is it? Book release? A book?
We'll just do a book fair. There are so many people who've written books
for authors,
and they bring me copies of
I've
their
actually
book.
had a few. Actually, I know some book writers from the West Side of Chicago who I actually thought was going to be a part of this event, but for some unforeseen reasons were not. That created, kids' books or the urban novels. Because I'm me and my sisters, that's what we did for fun. We read books. So I'm a big fan of the urban novels, and especially to know the authors from our community.
And there are a bunch of them.
And
people don't know. I mean, I hear all the negative things about what goes on, but a lot of the positive stuff, people just don't know about it. Somebody brings me a book they've written almost every week. Okay. Alderman Ed Smith has written 4 books.
Wow. And they're good books.
Somebody always
I
tells
saw
me
him the other day.
A life story.
I'm finishing up my next book. We joke about it. He said, I'm a young lady, her brother, I don't know if you remember Yummy.
Yes,
But his sister, not only has she written the book, but she also has made a little movie. And she brought me a copy of the book. And of course, the book is based on the movie, and the movie is based on the book. And then I met a lady the other night. I was in a basement over on Augusta. She has written a book, and I thought it was going to be difficult. I've read the whole thing. It's a fascinating book. I mean, unbelievable. I couldn't put it down.
Where we do a pop-up book
fair. I'm all for it.
Everything.
Because knowledge is
And
definitely
I'm
power.
going to give away 1,000 books to kids on Saturday.
Yes.
At our back to school.
That's right. We
picnic
need
and
to
parade.
talk
That's
about
definitely
that.
great.
And Reverend McCrae wrote
Count
this
down
book.
to the minute.
Yeah.
It's about So You Want to Be Grown. I mean,
Right?
it's really for teenagers and young adults, and it tells them the pearls of growing up. So you want to be grown, huh?
Right?
But you got to pay rent.
So we at the 8 o'clock hour, Congressman. You want to announce? Yeah.
But, oh no! Well, we got our picnic and parade, our 40th picnic and parade.
40 of them.
Right, where is it? What's
Coming up Saturday, 10 o'clock at Bloomingdale and Central. And of course, the festivities in Columbus Park.
I used to live on Central at 1700 block of Central. So we couldn't wait for you guys to set up for the parade so we can get stuff already.
We coming right down.
Yeah, you guys
Central.
were set up right there on our block. So we couldn't wait for the parade to go by.
Nice.
Well, it's the 40th year.
That's
we haven't done it.
Thank you for everything you've done for us.
I've run into more young people who've gone to college, universities,
and had kids there,
doctors, who are lawyers, CPAs, got their own businesses, anything you can imagine.
Man.
And this business about where you come from. Look, it ain't where you come from; it's where you're going.
Hey,
oh man, you always leave us with something.
You just said it.
P-Ray, you want to say something?
Yes, please tune in to Black Excellence Hour, Sundays at 5 p.m. on WVON 1690 AM. This is the only urban conservative talk show on iHeartRadio. Also, like the Black Excellence Hours page on Facebook to keep up with what we are doing. Black Excellence Hour is a show for people with high self-esteem.
Steve, you want to say something?
Yes, and as always, we appreciate everybody that tuned in today. Make sure you tune in next Sunday where we will have great topics, great talks, and what we always say. We got West Side people speaking about West Side issues right here on the West Side with Welcome to Northwest Austin Council, WNAC.
Luda Lit Queen.
Yes, Luda Queen. Check us out on queenlit.com with 2 T's. queenlit.com, and also on Facebook I am Lou the Lit Queen, Instagram Queen Lit Inc, and on Snapchat Lunetta 1028. Check out our website, and we host the pop-up shops again, and I wish everybody love, peace, and success, and God bless.
Absolutely. Now, thank everybody for coming out, Congressman.
Make sure
Davis.
you get your tax credit money if you qualify.
Absolutely.
If you've got children, that money is yours for the taking.
Thank you.
So make an old man go get some children.
And my baby just said, did nobody see my check yet?
Exposure for having us.